job, my career, and ultimately I wound up at that time when I got enough of my health back. I sold my house and my possessions, and I hiked the Appalachian Trail for 5 months, trying to raise awareness that this epidemic is in every state in the nation, and it's spreading faster than any other epidemic in our country. Well, my thoughts were, in hindsight, how ignorant I was to the true facts of Lyme. I had been listening to things like an incorrect fact that it takes 36 to 48 hours for a tick to be attached to transmit the disease, and that's simply not true. I found out later there are no scientific studies. That's an assumption based on some other science. I had ticks on me for less than 12 hours and contracted it. I got a call just 3 days ago from a dear friend of mine, a local cyclist here who contracted it at Cherokee Park. He's got all the classic symptoms. About 6 weeks ago he was bitten, found the tick, sitting on the grass, and found it on his rear end. Removed it, thought he was safe. 6 weeks later he's got crushing fatigue, joint pain, splitting headaches, and I'm really happy to say this, that his doctor is treating him with antibiotics based on the symptoms, not on the really, really inaccurate blood tests that are currently being used for Lyme disease. Just not accurate. It did. It affected me physically first through really bad joint pains, floating joint pains that aren't like arthritis, because you might have one elbow, one shoulder, one knee, and they move because the bacteria is moving. It's attacking your joints. I had awful fatigue to the point where I just literally had to psych myself up to get off the couch to go to the bathroom. I would drag myself through work every day and then come home and collapse. It started to affect me later cognitively as the bacteria passes the blood-brain barrier, got in my brain. I had terrible short-term memory loss. I literally was driving to work one day on a route I'd driven for 9 years in my hometown and had to pull over into the emergency lane on I-64 because I couldn't figure out where I was and where the next turn was. Losing names, losing my ability to speak, and that was part of my job. And ultimately, I got recovery from most of those symptoms, but I still had enough debilitation cognitively that I had to leave the job. You know, pretty much the last 36 months I've been working on this. When I did the Appalachian Trail, it took me the better part of a year to plan it and do it, and to try and promote it. Short-term memory issues, and I actually have like some gastrointestinal problems. Probably all the antibiotics that I had to take, as well as some other infections. Like I picked up a case of Giardia, waterborne parasite. It's awful. I got that on the Appalachian Trail. It is very persistent. You know, and if you have a good immune system, you usually clear it yourself. But mine's so compromised that when I got it, I had to take antibiotics again, and then I started getting all these other GI problems, leaky gut, that kind of thing. So I'm functional, but I'm not near what I used to be pre-Lyme.
People will watch this and say, wow, all of the diseases that you battle, and yet
Well, Erica, first I'm really lucky that I'm one of those Lyme patients that was able to recover a good part of my health. Many of the people that are here today have been battling this for 10, 15, 20 years. They were misdiagnosed or undiagnosed for all or part of that time. And this bacteria will get worse. It'll set up in your body if it's not eradicated quickly, and it gets harder and harder to eliminate. My case was found only about 5 months after I was bitten, and because of that I was able to get some of my health back, and I've always been active. And that probably helped my immune system fight this infection better than maybe otherwise, because I was physically fit and a healthy eater.
I know this is a better question for the health department, but since we're so active in the Lyme disease, taking awareness, all of that, what have you heard about it?
Well, I've heard from state entomologists, both in Kentucky and Indiana, that definitely the tick populations are growing. The winters we have had are not the type that are going to suppress the populations. The predators that typically feed on the animal vectors that spread Lyme disease is primarily spread by rodents. Ticks bite white-footed mice, which are very populous in Kentucky because they used to be eaten by foxes and the like. We don't have a lot of that type of predator anymore. So the mice increase in population, the ticks increase in population, and the mice carry Lyme disease and other pathogens, and the ticks bite them and then pass it on to humans and other larger mammals. So entomologists are clear that the tick populations are growing.
Now that we got the background out of the way, talk to us a little bit about how long it's been background.
Well, I've already been out for about 10 weeks. I started in April at the Atlantic Ocean, and I backpacked from the Atlantic Ocean a little more than 1,100 miles back here to Louisville. And now I've got about 3,000 more miles by bicycle, which will take me about 10 weeks. So I should reach San Francisco about mid-October. Hoping to ride about 350 miles a week roughly, and camping along the way. And hopefully meeting a lot of Lyme patients and support groups and trying to continue this mission all across the country. Well, there's a pretty good informal network of Lyme support groups all over the country. These are all grassroots groups. Our group started here a little more than 4 years ago from 2 local Lyme patients that started it on their own. And that's happened basically in every state in the continental United States. So we can communicate with each other and let them know I'm on my way. And that happened on the Appalachian Trail. I was able to meet a lot of Lyme patients. And we also try to reach out to local media. You know, obviously local newspapers in even small towns that I'm passing through, but also larger ones and folks like you. I think you got the insect shield. Maybe we could talk briefly about just prevention techniques like we did last year. So, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about ways that people can prevent tick bites in general, and then if you get a tick bite, how you could respond quickly to make sure you don't suffer from one of these infections. Because Lyme is just one tick-borne disease that is present here in this area. So we talked earlier about tick protective clothing. Hugely beneficial. I never had a single tick crawling on me in 5 months on the Appalachian Trail. You can get clothing made by a company called Insect Shield, impregnated with permethrin. I wear pants, I wear shirts, I wear socks. You can buy a spray version of the permethrin at a sporting goods store and treat your own clothing. Your kids are going to be out at summer camp, they're going to be at playgrounds. Really, really recommend it. It's a non-toxic alternative versus putting chemicals on your skin. Awareness of doing tick checks when you're in tick territory is really important. Ticks need shade, they need humidity, and they need overgrown vegetation. If you walk through those areas or you sit in grass that's not cut on a regular basis, you're in tick territory here in northern Kentucky and the whole Sewell region. So if you pass through those regions, stop periodically and do a really close visual check down your lower extremities. These ticks are so teeny when they're in the larval stage, nymphal stage. You can't see them unless they're moving, unless you're looking really close. So tick checks for your kids, when they're taking a bath at night, for you, get help from a partner, because they'll get in places you can't see, behind your ear, your groin, back your knees, your armpits. Those are areas to check.